By the end of the 11th century, around 1095, a number of things were happening in Europe that required fixing. First of all, there'd been a huge fight between the Pope at Rome and the Patriarch of Constantinople over who was going to be the first person in Christianity. And that had ended badly because there were personalities involved and they kicked each other out of their respective churches. Not that either one of them particularly cared. Secondly, the Pope at Rome had been in a massive fight with a number of the emperors and kings in the West over whether or not the Pope was superior to the king. And that had resulted in a number of fights and people being excommunicated in something called the investiture controversy. Population had been on the rise thanks to a number of agricultural changes that had happened about 100 years before. And so a number of these small lords now had lots of sons who had been trained in arms but were never going to inherit anything and were getting into trouble as young men with too much to drink and too many arms are wont to do. And on top of it all, a group of Arabs had succeeded in conquering the Holy Land, the cities of Jerusalem, Nazareth, all of the places that were important to Christians. They were important to Muslims too, but they were important to Christians from the Byzantine Empire. At this juncture, a man called Urban II became Pope. Urban had been a knight as a young man. He was unusual that way. Most people went in the monastery at a very young age, but he knew what it was to be a knight. He knew what it was to have a religious calling. He had some kind of religious experience that put him into a monastery and then a meteoric rise to the papacy. So when he gets a letter from the Emperor at Constantinople saying, you know, maybe instead of fighting with each other, maybe we could work something out to go to Jerusalem and make the holy city safe for pilgrims to visit, he hits on the idea of a holy war. If you're a young man with nothing to do, you can go save Jerusalem. You might even get a little land in the process. You can get your own little kingdom. Maybe it'll provide a place where the papacy and the Constantinople church can have a little rapprochement. Maybe it can create closer ties between the East and West, because although Rome had really been gone as a political entity for half a millennia at that point, it was a dream that never died. People still talked about reuniting Rome. It was still something that was particularly, I think, in the hearts of educated people like the popes and the emperors and the kings. So that all those things came together in 1095 when he decided to call the First Crusade. And so he went on a road trip. Many new churches were being built at this time, again, because of the extra capital that was created by the agricultural revolution. He was being invited to dedicate this church and that church, so he literally started in Toulouse at the great cathedral there, and Count Raymond of Toulouse said, I'm in, took his guys, many, many more followed, and off we went on a 200-year adventure of classical crusades and various other ones thrown in. So that's how the Crusades began. But they began really as a way to solve a number of really niggling problems in the mind of a man who I think was really well positioned to come up with what seemed like a good solution. Ultimately, it was much more fraught. I don't think anybody sees the future, but that's why they started the way they did and when they did. It was Urban II solving problems in a very pragmatic way.